In a secluded village surrounded by dense forests, mysticism and tradition were deeply woven into daily life. The village thrived under the watchful eyes of ancestral spirits, with the sounds of drums and chants during ceremonies filling the air. The scent of incense mingled with the aroma of freshly prepared meals, creating an atmosphere both sacred and familiar. Nia, a young woman with an unwavering spirit and deep sense of duty, was at the heart of this community. Raised by her grandmother Abini, the village's spiritual guide, Nia was taught to respect the spirits and uphold the traditions of her ancestors. Despite losing her parents young, she grew up with her grandmother's love and wisdom, shaping her into a brave and kind-hearted individual. Nia's days were filled with tasks that connected her to her heritage, from assisting in ceremonies to gathering herbs and teaching children about their culture. Beloved by the villagers for her helpful nature and wisdom beyond her years, Nia's dedication to her community was evident. But the village had been plagued by misfortunes. Crops failed, livestock died, and strange illnesses spread. Rumors swirled about the cause, but no one knew for certain what was behind these calamities. The village lived in fear and uncertainty, waiting for a solution to their growing troubles. Despite the village's hard times, Nia pushed on with determination. She was no stranger to hardship, having lost her parents at a young age. Her father had been a brave warrior, and her mother, a skilled healer. They both succumbed to a mysterious illness that swept through the village many years ago. Their passing left a void in Nia's heart, but her grandmother Abini stepped in to raise her. Under Abini's guidance, Nia learned the ways of the spirits and the significance of their traditions. Her bond with her grandmother was strong, forged in shared rituals and deep respect for their heritage. Nia's daily life was a testament to her dedication to her community. She would rise early to help her grandmother prepare for the day's ceremonies, gathering herbs and materials needed for various rituals. As she moved through the village, she greeted the villagers with a warm smile, stopping to help where needed. Children often gathered around her, eager to learn about their heritage from someone they admired. However, the misfortunes that had befallen the village made life increasingly difficult. Crops that once flourished began to wither, livestock that had always been healthy fell ill, and strange illnesses began to afflict the villagers. Everyone was working twice as hard to keep up with the demands. The village was bustling with activity, but beneath the surface, a sense of unease lingered. The normally vibrant community was now overshadowed by fear and uncertainty. Even amidst this fear, Nia found solace in her relationship with Kofi, a young warrior known for his strength and kindness. Their bond was deep, forged over years of shared experiences. They supported each other through thick and thin, providing a source of comfort and hope. Kofi too had lost his parents and understood Nia's pain. They shared a mutual understanding and love that gave them strength. One day, with many new sick villagers needing attention, Nia and Kofi were working non-stop at the herbalist's hut. Nia was tirelessly brewing potions, while Kofi organized supplies and tended to the sick. Their teamwork was seamless, each movement and decision perfectly coordinated. "Kofi, we're running low on feverfew and willow bark," Nia said, worry creasing her brow. "Without them, we can't make enough medicine for the fevered children." "I'll head to the nearby market," Kofi replied without hesitation. "It's a long journey, but we don't have a choice." Nia nodded, her gratitude evident in her eyes. "I'll come with you. We can carry more back if we both go." The next morning, they set out at dawn, their journey filled with urgency and determination. The path to the market was treacherous, winding through dense forests and across rocky terrain. As they traveled, they shared stories and laughter, momentarily forgetting the weight of their responsibilities. Reaching the market, they quickly bought the needed herbs and other supplies. They also exchanged news with neighboring villagers, hoping to find out more about the strange illnesses affecting their home. Laden with their purchases, they began the journey back, moving as swiftly as they could. As they walked, Kofi noticed Nia's weariness. "We should rest for a moment," he suggested, guiding her to a shaded spot by a stream. Nia smiled gratefully and sat down, dipping her hands in the cool water. "Thank you, Kofi. I don't know what I'd do without you." Kofi sat beside her, taking her hand in his. "We're in this together, Nia. We'll find a way to help our village." After a brief rest, they continued their journey, finally reaching their village as dusk fell. They quickly got to work, using the newly acquired herbs to brew more potions and treat the sick villagers. Their efforts brought some relief to the suffering community, and the villagers praised Nia and Kofi for their dedication and hard work. Despite the challenges, Nia and Kofi's love and partnership provided a beacon of hope. They dreamed of a future where the village would thrive once more and they could build a life together free from the burdens of the past. Their relationship was a testament to the strength found in unity and the power of love to overcome even the darkest times. Despite the villagers' best efforts, nothing was working, and the village's condition worsened. Crops continued to wither, livestock perished inexplicably, and mysterious illnesses spread further, affecting even the healthiest among them. The sense of unease grew stronger, and whispers of supernatural causes became more frequent. The village chief, a wise and respected leader named Ayo, called a meeting with all the villagers who were not sick. His voice, usually calm and reassuring, now carried a weight of concern. "My friends, we have endured many hardships together," Ayo began, his eyes sweeping over the anxious faces of the villagers. "But these recent events are unlike anything we have faced before. Our crops wither despite our care, our livestock die without cause, and our people fall ill with no apparent remedy. We have tried everything within our power, but it is not enough. We must seek the wisdom of the spirits to understand what is happening." Abini, Nia's grandmother, and the village's spiritual guide stepped forward. Her presence commanded respect, and the villagers listened intently as she spoke. "We must perform a deeper consultation with the spirits," she said. "There is an unrest that we have not yet understood. I will need to call upon the ancestors for guidance." The next day, preparations began for a grand ceremony. The village came together, each person contributing to the effort. Nia and Kofi worked tirelessly, assisting Abini in gathering the necessary items for the ritual. The air was thick with anticipation, and a sense of urgency permeated every task. As night fell, the villagers gathered around a large bonfire at the center of the village. Abini began the ceremony with chants and prayers, calling upon the spirits of their ancestors. The flames of the bonfire danced higher, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. The villagers watched in silence, their hearts filled with hope and fear. Suddenly, the fire flared brightly, and a chilling wind swept through the gathering. Abini's voice grew stronger, resonating with the power of the spirits. As she chanted, the air around them shimmered, and several spirits began to appear. These spirits seemed panicked, their expressions filled with fear. "Stop the ceremony!" one spirit cried out, its voice trembling with urgency. "You must stop!" The villagers exchanged worried glances, but before anyone could react, a red spirit burst through the gathering, its presence overpowering and filled with rage. The red spirit screamed in anger, its voice echoing with a terrifying intensity. "I am one of you. You betrayed me," it bellowed. The villagers were bewildered, unsure of what the spirit meant. The red spirit's eyes scanned the crowd and then locked onto Nia. Its gaze intensified and it screamed, "There she is! She must be returned to me, or all of the sick and ill will die, and crops will never grow in this land again." Abini stepped forward, her voice strong and unwavering. "Nia is not yours. Why does she need to be returned? Who are you?" The red spirit's anger seemed to grow, and it howled, "I am the spirit of a wronged ancestor. She must be returned to right the wrongs committed against me. Only then will the village be freed from this curse." With those final words, the red spirit vanished, leaving the villagers in stunned silence. None of the villagers left. They all stayed, an uproar breaking out as they argued about what to do next. Some were frightened and thought it best to send Nia to the spirit to save the village. Others were adamant that there must be another way to appease the spirit without sacrificing Nia. Nia felt a cold shiver run down her spine. The implications of the spirit's words were terrifying, but the need to resolve the unrest was undeniable. The villagers continued to argue, the fear and uncertainty palpable in the air. Ayo stepped forward again, his face grave. "We must find a way to understand and fulfill the spirit's demand," he said, "but we will not make hasty decisions. We need to uncover the truth behind these claims." As the uproar slowly began to calm, Abini addressed the villagers. "Nia and Kofi will seek to uncover the truth of the ancestors' wrong. We must find a way to make amends without sacrificing one of our own." Kofi took Nia's hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "We'll face this together," he promised. "Whatever it takes, we'll find a way." With their mission clear, Nia and Kofi prepared to embark on a journey that would test their courage, their love, and their commitment to their village. The mystery of the restless spirit loomed before them, a challenge they were determined to overcome. After the encounter with the red spirit, Nia, Kofi, and Abini returned home, their minds heavy with the spirit's demands. That night and the following day, the villagers, desperate for a solution, began to visit their home, pleading for Nia to agree to the spirit's terms. Each plea was more desperate than the last, with families begging for the sake of their loved ones. "Please, Nia," one woman cried, tears streaming down her face. "My children are sick. If you don't go with the spirit, they might die." Nia listened, her heart breaking with each new plea. Unable to bear the weight of their desperation, she locked herself in her room. Outside, Kofi did his best to calm the villagers and send them away. "Please, give her some time," he said, his voice steady but strained. "We will find a way." As the sun set, Chief Ayo arrived at their home. Abini greeted him with a heavy heart, and they gathered in the main room to discuss their options. All the while, Nia remained secluded in her room. "We can't force her into this," Ayo said, his voice filled with concern. "But we must find a way to save our village." Abini nodded. "Nia is strong, but this decision must come from her. We need to give her time to process everything." Inside her room, Nia's mind raced. She thought of the villagers' pleas, the desperation in their eyes, and the words of the red spirit. She knew the weight of the decision before her and the potential consequences of refusing the spirit's demands. Her thoughts turned to her parents and the sacrifices they had made for their village. She wondered what they would advise her to do. As the night wore on, Nia found herself staring at the protective charms her grandmother had given her. She felt a sense of calm wash over her, and slowly she made up her mind. This was her duty, her path to bring peace to her people. With a deep breath, Nia unlocked her door and stepped into the main room. Abini, Kofi, and Ayo looked up, their faces filled with a mix of hope and dread. "I've made my decision," Nia said, her voice steady. "I will go with the spirit." "No, Nia, you can't," Kofi said, standing up quickly. "There must be another way." Nia shook her head, her eyes filled with resolve. "I have to do this, Kofi. It's the only way to save our village." Ayo and Abini exchanged a glance. Then Ayo spoke. "Are you sure, Nia? This is a great sacrifice." "I'm sure," Nia replied. "I need to do this for all of us." With her decision made, they prepared for the festival. The village gathered once again around the bonfire, the air filled with a sense of solemnity and anticipation. Abini began the ritual, her chants calling upon the spirits to manifest once more. As the fire blazed higher, the red spirit appeared, its form more defined and imposing. Nia stepped forward, her heart pounding, but her resolve unwavering. The spirit extended its hand, and Nia took it, feeling the intense heat radiate from its touch. "Are you ready to fulfill the promise?" the spirit demanded. "Yes," Nia replied, her voice clear and strong. The villagers watched in silent horror as the spirit led Nia towards the center of the ceremonial ground. As they reached the bonfire, the spirit began to chant in an ancient tongue, invoking the power of the spirits. Just as it seemed that Nia would be lost to the spirit world, Kofi stepped forward, his face set with determination. "Wait," he shouted. "There must be another way. We need to understand the full truth of what happened." The spirit paused, its fiery eyes locking onto Kofi. "You dare to challenge the will of the spirits?" Kofi nodded, stepping closer. "Yes, because I believe that true reconciliation can only come from understanding and forgiveness. Tell us the full story of your betrayal, spirit. Let us honor your memory by making things right in the proper way." The spirit hesitated, the flames around it flickering as if caught in a moment of doubt, but then its eyes blazed with renewed fury. "No," it bellowed, "I must have my penance." Before anyone could react, the spirit raised its hand, and a burst of fiery energy shot towards Kofi. He screamed in agony as his body disintegrated into ash before their eyes. Nia screamed in pain, falling to her knees as the village looked on in shock and horror. The spirit resumed its chanting, the flames around them growing higher and more intense. It finished the incantation, and with a final thunderous roar, took Nia into the spirit world, leaving the villagers stunned and broken. The bonfire's flames slowly died down, and the village was plunged into an eerie silence, the weight of their loss and the gravity of the spirit's vengeance hanging heavily in the air. The villagers were stunned and paralyzed with grief after witnessing the horrific events of the ceremony. Kofi's tragic death and Nia's disappearance into the spirit world left the community in a state of mourning and disbelief. Over the following days, they mourned deeply, holding vigils and sharing stories of Nia and Kofi's bravery. But soon, they noticed that the sacrifices had indeed worked. The sick began to heal, the crops grew lush and plentiful, and the livestock thrived more than ever before. It was as if the village was being blessed in ways they had never experienced. The fields, once barren, were now vibrant with life, and the once ailing villagers regained their health and strength. Despite the newfound prosperity, a shadow loomed over the village. The memory of what they had done weighed heavily on their hearts. The price they paid for peace was too high, and they felt an emptiness that prosperity could not fill. The villagers frequently gathered to cry for Kofi and to wonder what had become of Nia. The joy of their restored fortunes was always tempered by the haunting memory of the sacrifices made. Nia awoke in a dark, cold room, her wrists bound by heavy chains. She blinked against the dim light filtering through a small barred window. Outside, she could see glimpses of an immensely beautiful world, lush forests, shimmering rivers, and skies painted in brilliant hues. But she was trapped within the confines of a dark castle, its stone walls oppressive and foreboding. The heavy door creaked open, and the red spirit entered. His form was still terrifying, but now more defined, a hideous burned man whose eyes burned with anger and pain. He stood before her, his presence filling the room with an oppressive heat. "Welcome to my domain," the spirit said, his voice echoing in the cold chamber. "I am Adisa. You are here to serve your penance." "Why am I here?" Nia asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite her fear. "You are here," Adisa replied, "because your ancestor wronged me, and now you must pay for his sins. Until you accept me as your husband, you will remain chained in this room." Nia's eyes widened in horror. "You want me to marry you?" "Yes," Adisa said, his voice filled with bitterness. "My own bride was taken from me, betrayed by those I trusted. Just as I suffered, so shall your village suffer, unless you agree to be my bride. Only then will the curse be lifted." Seeing Nia's confusion, Adisa began to recount his tale. He had been a great leader, respected and loved by his people. But his own brother, consumed by jealousy and greed, had conspired with others to overthrow him. In the process, Adisa was ambushed and burned alive. His fiancée, a woman he dearly loved, was taken from him and forced to marry his treacherous brother. "My spirit has been restless ever since," Adisa continued. "I seek retribution for the wrongs committed against me. Your ancestor was among those who betrayed me. His bloodline must now pay the price." Nia listened, her heart heavy with the weight of Adisa's story. She understood his pain but also knew that accepting his terms would mean a life of captivity and misery. "There must be another way," she pleaded. "Let us find a way to honor your memory without more suffering." Adisa's eyes blazed with anger. "I am not wrathful. Your village has agreed to the terms, and I have lifted their plight. But you will only be free once you accept your new life and accept me as your husband." With that, Adisa left the room, leaving Nia alone with her thoughts. The chains around her wrists felt heavier than ever, the weight of her predicament sinking in. She knew she had to find a way to resolve this without sacrificing her freedom or condemning her village to further suffering. As days turned into weeks, Nia struggled with her situation. She was fed and given water, but her confinement was harsh. She spent her time thinking of her village, her grandmother, and the sacrifice Kofi had made. She also thought about Adisa and the deep pain that drove his vengeance. Despite the despair of her captivity, Nia's spirit remained unbroken. She was determined to find a way to bring true peace and reconciliation both for Adisa and her village. She began to formulate a plan, one that would require courage, wisdom, and the strength of her spirit. Unbeknownst to Nia and the villagers, Kofi was not fully dead. When Adisa's fiery energy struck him, it transported him to the spirit realm. Kofi awoke in a strange, otherworldly forest, vibrant with colors and eerie silence. Despite his aches, he stood, determined to find Nia. As he wandered through the surreal landscape, Kofi encountered various spirits, some curious and others hostile. The forest was alive with bioluminescent plants and strange creatures. Each step was cautious, his senses heightened. He fought off threats and used his wits to navigate this strange realm, driven by his unwavering love for Nia. Eventually, he reached a grand hall made of luminous stones and surrounded by ethereal light, where the elder spirits gathered. The hall was majestic, its walls adorned with ancient symbols and glowing runes. The air hummed with power, and Kofi felt a sense of awe as he stepped inside. As Kofi entered the hall, the elder spirits turned their gaze upon him. They were majestic and intimidating, their forms radiating an otherworldly glow. Each spirit had a distinct presence, exuding wisdom and power. The spirits began to murmur among themselves, their voices a harmonious blend of surprise and curiosity. "How is this possible?" one spirit asked, its eyes narrowing. "A mortal in the spirit realm?" Another spirit, its form like swirling mist, floated closer. "We saw what happened to you, Kofi. Adisa's attack should have ended your life. You should not be here." Kofi stood tall, his voice steady despite the tension. "I don't know why I survived, but I know I must save Nia. Please help me." The ancient spirit with eyes like stars stepped forward, looking at Kofi with a mixture of shock and curiosity. "Your presence here defies the natural order. It is rare for a mortal to enter our realm with such purpose." The spirits conferred among themselves, their conversation a blend of harmonious tones. Finally, the ancient spirit addressed Kofi again. "Your love for Nia is strong, stronger than the boundaries between our worlds. This strength has brought you here, but know that Adisa's wrath is great and his pain runs deep. His desire for retribution is powerful, and he will not easily be swayed." Kofi's heart swelled with determination. "I will do whatever it takes to free Nia and bring peace to our village." The spirits were silent for a moment, then Kofi continued. "Adisa managed to overpower your blessings and bring turmoil to our village. If he continues unchecked, he might become a threat to the spirit realm as well. Do you really want him to have the power to challenge your authority here too? The ancient spirit's eyes narrowed in thought. Your words carry weight, mortal. Adisa's actions have disrupted the balance. If he continues, he could indeed pose a threat beyond your village. Kofi seized the moment. I don't just seek to save Nia. I seek to restore balance. Help me confront Adisa. Together we can ensure he finds the peace he needs without causing further harm. The elder spirits conferred once more, their voices a melodic hum. Finally, the ancient spirit spoke again. There may be a way, but it is fraught with danger. To free Nia and restore balance, you must confront Adisa and perform a ritual of reconciliation. You must show him that forgiveness and understanding can heal even the deepest wounds. Kofi's determination was unwavering. Tell me what I must do. The spirit with misty form spoke. Adisa's pain stems from betrayal and loss. You must confront him and appeal to his sense of justice and honor. He must understand that true peace comes from reconciliation, not vengeance. Another spirit added, We will accompany you on this journey. Adisa's wrath cannot be underestimated, and with our guidance, you will have a greater chance of success. With renewed determination, Kofi set off with the elder spirits. His journey was arduous and filled with trials that tested his strength, courage, and resolve. Along the way, he encountered spirits who challenged him, forcing him to confront his fears and doubts. The elder spirits guided him through treacherous terrains and provided wisdom and support. Together, they made their way to the dark castle where Nia was imprisoned. The spirits blessed Kofi, imbuing him with the strength and courage he needed for the final confrontation. As they approached the castle, the air grew colder, and a sense of foreboding settled over them. Kofi steeled himself for the confrontation ahead, knowing that his love for Nia and the support of the elder spirits would guide him through. Kofi, guided by the elder spirits, approached the foreboding dark castle where Nia was imprisoned. The air was thick with tension, and an eerie silence enveloped the surroundings. The elder spirit's presence provided Kofi with a sense of calm and determination as he prepared to confront Adisa. Inside the castle, Nia sat in her dark chamber, her wrists still bound by heavy chains. The room was cold and oppressive, but she remained resolute, her thoughts filled with Kofi and the hope that somehow he would find a way to save her. Suddenly, the door to her chamber creaked open and Adisa entered, his form as menacing as ever. Nia, Adisa said, his voice echoing in the chamber, have you reconsidered your fate? Will you accept me as your husband and bring peace to your village? Before Nia could respond, the door burst open, and Kofi, flanked by the elder spirits, stepped into the room. Adisa's eyes blazed with anger and surprise as he saw Kofi standing before him. You, Adisa roared, you should be dead. How dare you defy the spirit realm and return here? Kofi stood tall, his voice filled with resolve. Adisa, your pain and anger are justified, but vengeance is not the answer. I've come to show you that reconciliation and forgiveness can heal even the deepest wounds. The elder spirits stepped forward, their presence commanding. The ancient spirit with eyes like stars spoke. Adisa, your actions have disrupted the balance of both the mortal and spirit realms. It is time to seek true peace and let go of your anger. Adisa's form flickered with uncertainty, but his anger was still palpable. You speak of peace and forgiveness, but what of the betrayal I suffered? How can I let go of the pain that has defined me for so long? Suddenly, the elder spirits moved to attack Adisa, attempting to subdue him. Adisa's rage flared, and a fierce battle ensued. The air crackled with energy as powerful blasts and ethereal strikes clashed. Despite their combined strength, the elder spirits were no match for Adisa's fury. One by one, he overpowered them, his wrath unyielding. Each spirit fell, their forms dissipating into shimmering particles as Adisa banished them to a higher realm, far away from the spirit world. As the last elder spirit, the ancient one with eyes like stars, prepared to be banished. It spoke with grave concern. Adisa, you cannot do this. Without our presence, the village and the lands will fall into chaos. There will be no one to watch over them, to guide and protect. Adisa's eyes burned with unrelenting fury. I care not for the village. They betrayed me once, and they will suffer the consequences. Your time is over, and I shall rule as I see fit. With a final, dismissive wave of his hand, Adisa banished the last elder spirit. The spirit's parting words lingered in the air like a haunting echo. Remember, Adisa, true power lies in compassion and forgiveness, not in vengeance. As the elder spirit vanished, Adisa turned his wrath towards Kofi. He unleashed a torrent of attacks, but to his astonishment, none of them affected Kofi. Adisa's confusion grew, and Kofi seized the moment. Adisa, you cannot defeat me, Kofi shouted. I am Kofi, son of Kwame, grandson of Adama. Adisa paused, his fiery eyes narrowing. Adama, the name of my brother, the one who betrayed me. How is this possible? Realization dawned on Adisa. He saw the parallels between his own tragic past and the present situation. He was perpetuating the same cycle of pain and betrayal, taking away the love of another as his own had been taken from him. Kofi, Adisa said, his voice softening, you are my kin. I see now the errors of my ways. I will not repeat the sins of the past. Adisa's form began to soften, his anger dissipating. He approached Kofi and Nia, releasing Nia from her chains. Go, both of you. Live in peace and love, and may your lives honor the memory of what has been lost. Kofi and Nia embraced, tears of relief and joy streaming down their faces. But the embrace didn't last long, as the spirit world began to tremble, left in disarray after the battle. Nia realized it must be because no spirits were guarding the place. Together, they searched Adisa's ancient texts, trying to find a way to stabilize the spirit world and protect their village. Eventually, they discovered a method to communicate with the real world. They found an incantation that would allow them to reach out to their village and ask if they were okay. With hopeful hearts, they performed the ritual and established contact with the village chief and Nia's grandmother. Kofi, Nia, is it really you? The village chief asked, his voice filled with a mixture of relief and fear. We have fallen ill again, and our lands are suffering. Kofi explained the situation. Adisa is no more, but the absence of the elder spirits has left our village unprotected. We need to know what you can tell us about Adisa and the history behind his wrath. The village chief's voice trembled. Adisa was once a great leader, betrayed by his own brother. Your ancestor, Kofi, was part of that betrayal. His spirit was left in torment, seeking retribution for the wrongs done to him. Fury boiled within Kofi as he learned the truth. So our family's actions have cursed us all along? Nia gently placed her hand on Kofi's arm, calming him. We must end this cycle, Kofi. We can't let anger and vengeance continue to rule our lives. They relayed the conversation to Nia's grandmother, who nodded sadly. Without the spirits, we are doomed. Our village cannot survive without their protection. Nia looked at Kofi with determination. We can become the guardians of our village. We can protect them and ensure that peace and balance are maintained, Kofi agreed. We will sacrifice our connection to the living world and live as guardian spirits, watching over our village. As they made their decision, the spirit world began to stabilize. Kofi and Nia performed the ritual that would transform them into guardian spirits, their forms shimmering with ethereal light. They felt a sense of peace and purpose as they left their mortal ties behind, dedicating themselves to the protection and well-being of their people. The villagers, having learned the truth about Adisa and the cycle of vengeance, vowed to honor his memory and ensure such betrayal never happened again. They erected a shrine in his honor and held ceremonies to remember the sacrifices of Kofi and Nia. Life in the village began to flourish once more. The sick recovered, the crops grew bountiful, and the livestock thrived. The villagers felt a renewed sense of unity and purpose, knowing that their guardian spirits were watching over them. Kofi and Nia, now ethereal beings, roamed the village unseen, guiding and protecting their people. They whispered wisdom into the ears of the elders, gently nudged the farmers towards fertile lands, and watched over the children playing in the fields. The village chief, filled with gratitude, often spoke to the shrine, sharing the village's joys and sorrows. He knew that Kofi and Nia were listening, their spirits intertwined with the very essence of the village. The villagers learned that revenge and the cycle of vengeance can only lead to more pain and suffering. An eye for an eye makes the world blind. True inner peace from wrongs done to you comes from understanding, forgiveness, and reconciliation. By acknowledging and honoring the past, they could build a future free from the shadows of betrayal. Kofi and Nia's sacrifice and dedication taught them the importance of breaking the cycle and fostering harmony for generations to come. In the end, the village thrived under the watchful eyes of their guardian spirits, living in harmony and peace. The legacy of Kofi and Nia became a beacon of hope and a reminder of the power of love, forgiveness, and the courage to break the cycle of vengeance.